Hello snowboarders of the internet, I am your host TC and today I will be reviewing the Nidecker Alpha APX. This board is equipped with Nidecker's Surfy Cam Rock camber profile, so what that means is you're going to have more of a setback camber towards that back foot with rocker in the nose and rocker in the tail as well, right before that contact point. So what that's going to do is that's going to give you all of the power, drive, and precision you're looking for, and then it's also going to give you all of that float, ease in and out of turns with that rocker. This board comes in a 153, 158, and a 162 wide. I rode this board at Copper Mountain where it was just a classic Colorado day. If you didn't like the weather, just wait 15 minutes and it's gonna change. Where when we got there, it was pretty much just nice and sunny and a little breezy with fresh corduroy. And as the day went on, the flurries would turn on, the flat light would show its face, and then it would just go away and come back, and you know, one of those days. But if you went into the trees, there was about ankle deep snow in there, so it all blew over into the trees, so it wasn't a total waste. I did use my Ride Fuse boots and my Jones Mercury bindings. When we're talking overall flex on this board, it is coming in at slightly stiffer than the middle of the road. That being said, the nose and the tail are definitely softer than that. I would say they're possibly even softer than the middle of the road, but don't let that fool you or anything. It is gonna be a fairly stable board as well, but you can still foot steer this thing. So even though it's slightly stiffer in between your feet, you can still easily foot steer this around anything, so you don't really have to worry that much. Now, when we do get into the stability portion, it is a nice, fairly stable board that is pretty damp. When you're going over those chunder piles or even push piles, it doesn't lose contact with the snow, where it doesn't want to, like, the nose doesn't want to fold on it, or it doesn't want to like skip off of those. It just keeps contact throughout the edge the whole time, just making it nice and smooth. The first thing I thought of when I was popping on this board is this board actually has really good snap to it, where since there is a little bit bigger of a rocker section in the tail, I didn't think that it was going to produce that well for me, but because they did shift that camber point more towards that back foot, it loads up really well. And it's super comfortable where it doesn't try to like twang you forward or anything like that. It just feels nice and in control. And the same goes when you're taking it off of jumps. The main thing to keep in mind is since it is a directional board, you do have way more nose than tail on it. If you're spinning this thing, the swing weight is off a little bit on it, so keep that in mind. But if you're just straight airing jumps, it's totally fine. It'll handle that medium-sized jump line for you with no problems. Might get a little loose on the big line, but feels super at home on that medium line, where you can take off on edge, you can let the lip do the work, or you can pop it yourself. It really doesn't matter. That one's a dealer's choice. Remember to like, subscribe, click that bell, and turn on those notifications so you don't miss any of the programming we have coming out. Butterability and jibbing. Even though this board is on the stiffer end in between your feet, the nose and the tail, I'm gonna keep that in regardless, but the nose and the tail are nice and easily butterable, where you can lean back on it. You do have a nice long sweet spot here. Even though it's not the craziest thing out there, you still do get really good pressing in it without actually having to try that hard. And the same goes in the nose. You can really just lean into this thing. I would recommend not leaning too much because it could get a little washy on you, but it still feels pretty stable. And when you do translate that into jibbing, it feels pretty much the same, where almost effortless on rails. If you want to just tail press or nose press, you really don't have to do too much just because of that camber zone's a little bit shorter. It really helps you out. Now, when you do slide this thing in between your feet, it feels a little wonky just because you have more nose than tail to it. But once you get past that, just come in a little bit faster and it feels totally normal. Like all Nidecker boards I've ridden, this thing carves extremely well. Because of the taper in the board, it makes it nice and easy to get over on those short, quick carves. It feels nice and stable on those medium carves, even when you're in less than ideal conditions. Even when it was chundery, it still felt nice and smooth. And it feels great on those larger carves. Ideally, you have a nice clean run for it, but even when it gets a little beat up, it still feels nice and smooth. And yes, it will Euro carve. Feel free to put that weight on the back foot here. Really decamber this board because it's mainly back here, and just let that power drive right through. Rider in mind. This board is designed for somebody that likes to do everything, but mainly stay to that free ride or that all mountain freestyle. They're not venturing in the park a whole bunch, but they're kind of making that whole mountain their park. If you're looking for another way to get involved in the Angry community, head on over to Angry Snowboarder VIP. Sure, I could explain what it is here, but we have a great video over there getting into it really in depth. I really enjoyed this board. When I first got on it, I thought this thing was going to be pretty planky just because it is the APX version of the board, but that wasn't the case. And I was super happy after a few runs that it wasn't the case, because it holds an edge like it's a super stiff board, but it still plays around and butters like it is a park board. So you pretty much get the best of both worlds in this thing. And honestly, it's an awesome board. I had a blast on it. If you're looking for that all mountain, like freestyle board, I would highly recommend picking one up. Comparable boards: the Nitro Alternator, the Ride Deepfake, and the Arbor Coda. Recommended bindings: the Nidecker Kaon Plus, the Jones Mercury, and the Salomon Highlander. As always guys, I've been your host TC, and this has been my review for the Nidecker Alpha APX. If you're still interested in boards, why don't you go check out one of the videos for the comparable boards.